And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. I'm Dean Beckman along with St. Mary's University Sports Information Director Donnie Netto. And this week we are going to highlight baseball on the Cardinals Nest. And Donnie, we've got a battery on the program this week. Right?
Yep, Dixon Irwin and James Green are on hand because Coach Winicky, Coach Oakes decided they didn't want to be on the show this week. So we brought a couple of guys who really wanted to talk baseball, and I think it's going to be much better than if we had grumpy old Nick over there.
Yeah, we're happy to have the battery, the catcher, Dixon Irwin. We'll have the pitcher, James Green, on a little bit later here on the program. But Dixon, tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you're from Red Wing. And so tell us how you got started in baseball and then how you eventually ended up at St. Mary's here.
Of course. Grew up playing baseball. My dad played 2 years at collegiately at Bethany Lutheran, so baseball's been in the family for years. My grandpa played, and then amateur ball throughout, and so growing up playing baseball, my dad was my coach when I was younger. Throughout high school, I played catcher. Throughout growing up, played catcher. Catcher I knew was a calling for me, and so it really what kind of gave me that edge to kind of grind at that position growing up, and it's what led me here. And getting a note from Coach Winicky that I'd be a great fit for this program, and I toured and I stayed in an overnight and loved it, and can't believe 4 years is already up.
It's all about that equipment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Growing up, everybody wants to be the catcher because they get to wear all that equipment.
Oh, yeah.
Talk a little bit about these 4 years. Like you said, it really goes fast. You come in as a freshman, and really everything kind of changed for you as the years progress. And everybody kind of says, you kind of got to bide your time, wait your turn. And really, that's kind of how it worked out for you. You played a little bit freshman year, a little more sophomore year, extended last year, and now this year you're the regular catcher. Talk a little bit about that progression and how you were able to kind of stick with it, because a lot of people get frustrated not playing right away.
Yeah, in high school I had the opportunity to play up and kind of be that guy who would play, and my senior year of high school I caught every inning, and then coming here, obviously there were seniors ahead of me, upperclassmen ahead of me, and I understood that coming in. And one thing Coach Winicky promised coming in is like, we're not going to guarantee you playing time, you have to earn it. And I wanted it to be that way. The other school I was looking at said, oh, you'd come here, you'd start, but that's one thing I kind of wanted to earn it myself, and something I wanted to prove to myself that I could play at this level. So growing up, I keep telling myself, or telling some freshmen, that my freshman year when I wouldn't play was some of the funnest times I had playing on the bench, kind of being into the game, watching it from that perspective and learning from the upperclassmen on the bench. So when I was ready to go in, a couple starts freshman year, and then as it progressed through senior year, I was able to kind of take what they taught me, and I think it made me a better baseball player.
Especially in a sport like baseball where you've got a roster of, I think you guys have 45, 46 players, 9 play. How do you, when you were a freshman and sophomore, how do you stay into the game? How do you make sure that when your number is called, because you never know when Coach Winicky is going to call your number, how do you make sure that you're always ready? Because there are so many guys there that, really, you don't play.
Right, and we talk about this all the time. It's when we're out at the field, it's an 8-hour, 9-hour day from when we get there, warm up, and take batting practice, and till the final game of the doubleheader. So finding ways to help the team even though you're on the bench, whether that be charting an opposing pitcher, which I did a little bit freshman year, or picking up on cues that pitchers do. I know one of our players does a very good job of trying to pick steal signs that in turn can help our catchers and help our pitchers when the time comes. So finding those little ways to kind of get into a role that may not be playing, but maybe figuring out a way to kind of help the team in your own way from the bench.
Dixon, talk about the way Coach Winicky structures practice, because when I watch practice, it seems like it's a practice that's established to help everyone on the team, not just the guys who play the most, right? It seems like there's everybody's got a role and everybody's involved in the practice.
Yep. We get sent out practice plans, so we know what's happening ahead of time. So when we get there, we can get set up and then kind of let practice flow, so we're not wasting too much time getting things set up. We're going right from one thing to the next. And you're right, the drills are set up where it doesn't match starters, you're over here, underclassmen or non-starters, you're over there. It really gels us together. You're never playing catch with the same person over and over again. You're really set up with senior freshmen, underclassmen, upperclassmen, and the drills are designed in a way to kind of challenge us and kind of be faster than what we should expect in a game. That way when we get in the game, it's not uncomfortable and we're not underprepared. So when we get to the game, we're over-prepared and able to kind of slow the game down and perform.
Sure.
You know, talk a little bit, and I'm sure it was a bigger adjustment as a freshman and sophomore, but you guys practice from February 1 until you leave for Florida. You get to go down to Florida, you play for 10 days outside. It's awesome. It's 80 degrees and sunny, and you come back here and you've got a month inside again. How are you able to make sure that that month between your spring break and when you were in Florida to that first game outside, that you are going to still continue to progress as a team and as an individual, because it's completely different practicing inside as it is practicing outside?
It's a time, once we come back from Florida, it's somewhat nice, excuse me, to get back inside, kind of get to the kind of nitty-gritty things that may need some sharpening, and things we saw down in Florida. And what was, we travel out to the RCTC Dome about once a week to get on the turf there, and that's really nice. And but being back inside in the rack, we have a really nice facility with cages and everything. So we kind of looking at it from the brighter side perspective, kind of not a lot of schools have that field house facility. So we could be in the gym every day, or we could be here kind of fortunate enough to have that space, have those cages, have our slotted time where it's just baseball. We don't have to share it with anybody, and we don't have to kind of squeeze in for time in a gym. So we're very fortunate enough to, even if we can't go outside, to have the rack and be able to kind of sharpen our skills before we head outside.
Speaking of nice facilities, as a senior, talk a little bit about Pudge's Place and what you guys are fortunate enough now to have in that new clubhouse.
It's beautiful. We're very fortunate. I'm very fortunate enough to be have it be here while I'm still here. I know watching alumni come in and look at it, they're just in awe, and I'm can't thank Pudge enough for his lead donation in the school for helping make the dream a reality. I know instead of players going and hanging out in their rooms and doing homework in their rooms, everyone's in Pudge's Place doing homework, socializing. So it's a great place for us to socialize, meet, do homework, and then just hang out throughout the day between classes and eat lunch.
It is a beautiful place.
Does it still have that new car smell to it?
It does. It does. In the morning before we practice, near the end of the day after practice. But no, we're very fortunate enough to have a very dedicated custodial staff that comes in and cleans it every day. We're very thankful for them, and can't thank everyone enough for making it a reality.
Well, let's talk about this year's team a little bit. You've had the opportunity to play on some successful teams here at St. Mary's, and earlier you went down to Florida, got a week's worth of games in. So from your perspective, and we'll ask James the same thing when he's on, from your perspective, how did the team look? You went 6-4, and of course a big part of it, yes, you want to win the games, but you also want to take some things away. So what were your takeaways from the Florida trip?
Overall, I think it went well. A lot of things we can work on, as an early trip can tell you. We could have came out with a better record, but we could have came out with a worse one. So I think we showed some resilience in the way we responded near the end of the trip. I thought we showed toughness, but we need to continue on that toughness and learn from our mistakes and kind of take those learning experiences and build on those instead of Coach Winnicky always says stay off the roller coaster. So kind of staying steady and progressing upwards so we're playing our best baseball by the end of the year.
You know, as we'll bring James on in just a little bit, but you get to catch him. What makes James special? What is it about him that makes him? I mean, he was the MIC Rookie of the Year last year, and don't pretend he's not sitting right.
I had to smile at him. I had to smile at him.
But you know, what makes him special and so difficult for opposing players?
I think the way he prepares throughout practice or throughout kind of outside of practice or outside of baseball. He's fun to be around, always smiling, great guy to be around. But once he comes to practice, once he sets foot on the field for his start, something changes. You can tell he's a locked-in mentality even before he kind of steps in between those foul lines. And I think his preparation in his bullpens before the game, and then when he steps onto the mound, that determination and focus on his task and his duty as a pitcher and situation-wise, it's just something special and something you don't see in everybody.
Dixon, one more question from me, and then Donnie gets the last couple. My question has to do with your position, right? You talked about catching James, and really you're kind of the quarterback when you're out there on the field, right? You're calling pitches, you're kind of aligning defensive positions and things like that. What's the balance a catcher has to have between offense and defense? You still get to bat. You're expected to contribute offensively, but you have a larger than usual role compared to some other positions on defense.
That's one thing I knew coming into college baseball. I knew that I was pretty good defensively, and I needed to kind of work on consistent hitting. And so one thing that I kept telling myself as throughout my years here is don't let either a bad day at the plate affect how you catch, or don't let how you catch affect your hitting. The goods can feed off the goods, but don't let the bads get into the bads of the other aspect. So kind of trying to stay consistent, whether it be at the plate or behind the plate, and not letting the negatives affect the negatives of one, and kind of trying to keep it straight in my head, kind of shake off the bad at bat, and then go out and catch a great inning, or vice versa.
Sure.
So.
Okay, good, thanks.
Well, I as everybody knows, I peel through people's questionnaires, and anytime somebody says their favorite family trip was a trip to a national park, I have to ask about it. You said Zion National Park was your favorite one in Utah. Tell me what your favorite part of Zion National Park was.
I think just the fact that that place exists. You see it on postcards, you could see it on the news. You don't really understand the beauty and kind of the seclusion from everyday life that national parks have. And we went to the Grand Canyon that trip too, and just to see kind of how picturesque it was, and how you were standing there in real life, but you could be looking at a picture. So just how beautiful it was, the nature, the wildlife.
Some phenomenal
incredible
hikes there. There's Narrows and Angels Landing, and I could talk national parks forever. But I do have one more for you, and I noticed that your hidden talent was catching food from a great distance. Well, it just so happens that I have some M&Ms.
Oh, good.
So therefore, we're going to see how this works.
While he gets the M&M ready, Dixon, what's the strangest thing you've ever caught from a distance?
Well, actually, so I was a part of this program in high school called SOAR, and we did a lot of recognition stuff, Student of the Month, Teacher of the Month, and every year we have this banquet to raise money and help us recognize students and faculty around our high school. And as part of you could get people to donate money if you do something or whatever. So my buddy had Sour Patch Kids, and we lined up probably 100 feet apart, and he would launch them across the dining room, and I'd be standing on the other end catching them in my mouth. So
for a Sour Patch Kid, I would die. I would die for one. But okay.
Well, we'll just do it from right here.
See if we get the M&M.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Not bad.
1 for 1.
Not bad.
2 for 2.
One more.
All right, 3 for 3. We got it. Good job. All right, Dixon Irwin, our starting catcher. We'll let you chew on the M&Ms. We're going to get James Green in here next. He's a starting pitcher for St. Mary's. That's next on the Cardinals Nest here on HBC.
Businesses of all sizes demand results. That's why HBC provides digital solutions for every business, from startups and entrepreneurs to large corporations. HBC is local. Our team of customer service reps and business specialists are your friends and neighbors. HBC will take the time to understand your business and recommend a tailor-made solution. HBC delivers a competitive edge for a competitive price. Let HBC Business Solutions take your business to the next level. Call 888-474-9995 today.
Be sure to check out US Golf TV, where you are going to see golf products that you have never seen before. You're also going to see golf tips from some of the leading instructors around the country that are truly changing the way people are teaching the game and challenging the status quo. Also, you're going to see fitness tips that are revolutionizing the way PGA Tour pros are training their body and swinging the golf club. If you want something different, if you're looking for some new information, US Golf TV has it. Be sure to check your local listings. US Golf TV, we've got you covered.
We're back on the Cardinals Nest talking baseball today. We just had on Dixon Irwin, the starting catcher for the St. Mary's baseball team. Now James Green, the starting pitcher for St. Mary's, joining us. And James, you saw Dixon's performance, and I'm sure you're glad, first of all, that you don't have the hidden talent of catching objects from long distances, right? So we won't be throwing M&Ms at you today. But we'll give you some of the same questions that Dixon had, and then a few new ones as well. But one of the same questions would be, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you came to St. Mary's here.
Okay, I'm from East Bethel, Minnesota, which is a town that's about, I'd say, 35 minutes north of the Twin Cities. How I ended up at St. Mary's, I guess. I was fortunate to get an email from Coach Winicky saying that, hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this program. I visited, really liked it here. Then I went on an overnight, and that's kind of I really saw like the community and such at St. Mary's. And then like I just realized like there were a few other schools I could have gone to, and I realized that just the people here I just got along with really, really well. Like, and that's not knocking the other schools. I was treated very well no matter where I went. But I don't know. I felt something here that I didn't at other places. So, I mean, that's kind of why I picked here.
Okay,
so.
Good.
Talk a little bit about your first year. As I hinted when I was talking to Dixon, I mean, you had a phenomenal freshman year, MIC Rookie of the Year. Talk a little bit about that adjustment from pitching in high school to pitching at the collegiate level. What was the biggest adjustment that you had to make and during that process of being a senior in high school to coming to St. Mary's and pitching as a freshman?
The biggest adjustment. It's a tough one. I would say a lot of it lies in the preparation, because like I put more work in my college career than I have like ever in my high school career, because like just the players are a lot better. Like every player in the lineup that you face was a good player when they were in high school. So like in high school, I mean, the batters I really only had to worry about like was maybe 1 through 4. On a good team, it was 1 through 9, but on your average high school team, it was like hitters number 1 through 4 that I really had to battle with. And then the rest of the lineup, I hate to say it, but I could breeze through it a little bit. But like, but in college, it's 1 through 9, and even the pinch hitters they bring up, like you have to focus, and that requires that much more preparation. So I would say that was the biggest adjustment. Did
you play a position as well as pitch when you were in high school?
Yeah, I was a shortstop and I played third base.
And so, what's the biggest adjustment for you not doing that second position? As we talked to Dixon about trying to keep from catching to batting, you just pitch, so there really isn't any batting to that. Was that hard to get used to?
At first it was, yeah, but then you kind of learn how to stay busy with it. Then you kind of realize that this is your job and this is your role of the team. So like, the way I think of it is last year I started like about 9 or 10 games. So that's 9 or 10 opportunities for me to go out and like help the team on the field and make a big impact. And I think of that like 9 or 10 isn't necessarily that many. So it's like I need to make the most of these 9 chances that I get. So that I think really sticks in my mind when I'm off the field.
Is that why you always went 6 or 7 innings too? You didn't want to give up those, because it was one of the things that really impressed me about your performance last year is how deep in the game you would continue to pitch. You don't always see that where pitchers are going, a 7-inning game, you're going 5 or 6 innings, and you did that regularly. I just felt like maybe you just didn't want to give that ball up and let somebody else have it.
Yeah, it's a little outside my control, but what happens after every inning, Coach Winicky or TJ would say, "How do you feel?" And I'd say, "I'm good." And then they'd send me right back out until they pulled me. So I mean, it was a fairly simple process, but I just keep saying I'm good until I got tired, and then.
Would you tell them if you got tired? Honestly, would you tell them
if I felt that I was hurting the team out there? Yes, I would tell them I got tired.
I'm curious to know, what do you do, since you're not batting, after an inning that you pitched and you know you're going to go back out there for some more pitches? What do you do while the team is batting, and maybe it's a long inning, maybe we're putting up a bunch of runs? How do you try to keep yourself fresh both mentally and physically?
I'd say physically, at least what I do is I like to take like a coat or something and I wrap it around my arm just so it stays really hot. So
Sure.
I don't know if there's any science behind that, but for some reason I just really like it. And we also keep like a body blade in the dugout, which what a body blade is it's like a really, really long piece of plastic that you just shake with your arm like this, and it makes your shoulder loose. So like I do that, and then I just try to pay attention to the game, because then you can watch Like, for example, if you see like a player in the field make an error, you could see that, you could think of that and think how that might affect them when they hit as well. So it's just a matter of paying attention to the game as well. So.
And then how do you transform that? Let's take that one step further. You're not pitching that day, or really for you, it's usually what, 3 or 4 days rest, one day start. What do you do during that time? I'm always curious about how pitchers kind of, if you pitch on Friday during your trip to Wheaton, you're not going to pitch Saturday or Sunday. How do you keep into the games to make sure that you're still a part of that team and helping the team, knowing that you're not going to get in the game no matter what?
All right, well, we do a lot of charting. So we have like 2 pitch charts that we do, and there's usually 4 guys on it. So there'll be 2 people doing the charts, and there'll be 2 people like helping the other guys with it. So then like I try to get one of those 4 spots. If I'm not, I mean, it's coveted by a lot of pitchers because it's, I don't know, it keeps you invested. Yeah. It keeps you paying attention to the game. But then if I don't get that, I don't know. I'm a pretty antsy guy in the dugout, so I like to have a good time and I watch the game because I just enjoy watching baseball, especially when my friends are playing too. So I mean, I don't find it that difficult to stay focused when I'm there. So.
Now, talk about your relationship with some of the other pitchers. You're a sophomore now, so you've got some new freshman pitchers on the team, but then also you've got the crazy left-handed seniors like Eli Morrison, right? So tell us about your relationship with them and how maybe you try to help the freshmen along a little bit this year.
Well, my relationship as a whole, it's been great. I mean, they're a very fun group to work and grind with, and I think we all get better together. So as far as like how I help other people is I just try to say, you can ask me kind of anything. Like I'll try to give you the best answer possible. Like I sometimes might not come to you and say, hey, you need help, because I like people taking charge of their own development per se. But if you want to come to me for help, don't ever be afraid to do so. So I try to like emphasize that too with how I act and such.
Talk a little bit about TJ. TJ Oakes, your pitching coach, obviously has, he's experienced. I mean, he pitched in the minor leagues. What does he bring to this team and the importance that he has molding you and the rest of the pitching staff?
I would say he relates to us really well, considering, like, as you mentioned, like his experiences. Because, like, for example, like you mentioned how pitchers will sometimes rest 3 to 4 days. He says, sometimes TJ will say sometimes, pitching can be really boring. But he says, but you gotta find a way to stay focused, and you gotta find a way to stay locked in, because he went through it, and since he went through it, he can relate to us with that. So I think his ability to relate to us really helps us as a pitching staff, and I'd say he's always very open to sharing his experiences as well. So he's one you can always go to his office to talk about baseball or life or anything. So that makes him. It's very easy to be around him.
So we talked earlier about your trip to Florida. What did you take away from the Florida trip? Strengths, weaknesses of the team. What did you get out of it?
I thought as a whole we played pretty well. I would say the number one thing I saw is not let one bad thing turn into 2 and turn into 3. So for example, if someone makes an error out in the field, that pitcher, the next batter needs to make a good pitch and get a ground ball, then we get a double play. So like, it's following things like that. It's not letting one error turn into a bad pitch where a guy hits a double and then a walk, then a hit batter, and then something that could have been manageable then becomes out of control. So it's just having, because bad things are going to happen within a game. I mean, it's kind of inevitable. No one's perfect, but it's just not letting one bad thing turning into 2 or 3. Yeah. So I'd say that was the number one thing I saw.
I'll let you flip the tables on Dixon as we asked Dixon about you. Talk a little bit about Dixon behind the plate and his importance and what makes him a good catcher for you to pitch to.
That's a tough one. Wow.
Especially because he's sitting right over there.
Yeah. I got to make sure I don't say the wrong thing. I would say just how hard he works back there. Because, he's a catcher that I feel bad if I throw a ball in the dirt for. Like, I do for all my catchers, but, when I do it for Dixon, it's like, oh, my bad, dude. Especially if it's a fastball. It's like, oh, that one looked like that hurt. But I just know that, I just see him grind back there. And, for example, in Florida, one of our catchers, Justin was struggling with the heat a little bit, and then Dixon had to catch darn near every inning in Florida with temperatures that were 85 plus at times, and I didn't hear him whine or complain at all. So I think that just shows his character and how hard he works behind the plate, and it's just, and the pitchers see that too, and we appreciate that, and I especially.
One I actually just thought of this. No lie, I just thought of it. But when you're out there, Dixon gets the pitch from TJ. He gives it to you. Do you ever shake him off?
I've yet to do that. I've yet to do that. No.
And talk about your pitching repertoire. What pitches do you have in your toolbox?
I throw a 4-seam fastball, I throw a slider, and I throw a changeup.
And for you, the pitcher, how important is it that that you're comfortable with the catcher behind the plate, that the catcher knows pretty much every time exactly where your pitch is going to go, how the curveballs break, and things like that?
I'd say it's very underrated because like one thing you don't always hear, I mean, it's not always talked about, is that I don't know if this is the right word, but relationship between pitcher and catcher. Because when you have like a really good connection with a catcher, like you just feel more comfortable out there when you pitch. And like regardless of the catcher, you're still expected to throw strikes. It's this expectation is the same, but it's just that feeling of familiarity, if that makes sense. So like, if I were given a different catcher to a game, it wouldn't be a big deal. I'd just get used to it and throw strikes and just do the best I can. But having Dixon back there just gives me a little bit of familiarity.
Sure.
So
earlier you talked about Coach Oakes. Talk about Coach Winicky a little bit and his style and how you've adapted to that and since you came from the high school ranks.
Well, knows a lot about the game, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, I mean he can be hard on us, but he wants the best from us. So that's how I see it, and that's how the rest of the guys see it as well. So like that's what he also says is you should not be worried when I do coach you. When you should be worried is when I no longer coach you, because that says that he doesn't think that you can get better. So that's why when you hear him or when he coaches, that's why you know he does that because he believes that you can be better than what you are. So I just think of that as well when he coaches, and that helps me receive the message and continue to get better.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to adjust to Winicky time? Because if you're on time, you're late. In Winicky's world.
Winicky's world.
I don't know. I didn't really struggle with it too much. I mean, and I credit a lot of the older guys with that because they kind of built that attitude into me a little bit. Because they said, hey, we have a meeting at 4:30. Make sure you're there by like 4:15
right.
at the latest.
Because 4:30 is late.
So yeah, I only ever remember him saying it like once my freshman year, but the rest of the time it's just the older guys on the team telling me that. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I know. So.
James, one more question from me. You know, we're in kind of a funky time of year right now. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's warm. Do you have a preference when you're out there pitching?
At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I got to do the best I can and help our team try and win no matter what. But if I did have a preference, I would say warm.
Okay.
Because I just,
like,
when I say
maybe.
Warm, I mean like 80 degrees or
Sure.
something like that. I don't mean like 100. 100's not, 100 plus isn't much fun.
Is it different for you as a pitcher trying to get loose or staying loose when, like this weekend, forecast is in the 40s. In Florida, it was the 80s. Is it harder to get ready this weekend if it's in the 40s, or do you just go through the same progression and then your body warms no matter what?
I think no matter the condition, I think your body warms no matter what. It's just the amount of time it takes to do that. Because in Florida, it didn't. I would be halfway through like our warm up, and I would feel pretty warm. Like I'd still finish it. I wouldn't cheat. But then whereas when we go to Wheaton, given that it'll be colder, I might have to run like a couple extra pulls to warm up. Like just the amount. I wouldn't say it's physically harder, but it's just a matter of time that it takes.
30 seconds, Donnie.
30 seconds.
One question.
Hidden talent. I checked yours too. You do impersonations.
Oh boy.
Do your favorite impersonation.
Wow. I can do a Kermit one if you want to hear that one.
Let's do Kermit.
Yeah, it's none of my business. Okay, one more. Do Coach Winicky.
I don't really have a notable quote.
Because you want to pitch on Thursday.
He wants
Friday.
to pitch. He wants to pitch. All right, we're out of time here on the Cardinals Nest. James Green, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks
Good
for
luck
having
here.
me. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, that's going to do it for the Cardinals Nest on HBC.